There we go. Okay, well, good evening from New York City again, and welcome everyone. The K-12 Outreach Program at ILAS, Columbia University, aims at promoting the history and culture of Latin America and the Caribbean in New York City classrooms. But it often happens that the issues upon which we touch are similar to those in other parts of the US. So it is enriching to have people from other states, and I believe even countries with us. Thank you so much for being here. Every year, our program organizes events and activities related to those goals, the most emblematic of them being the production of a resource guide for teachers to make use of Latin American and Caribbean history and culture in their classrooms. This year, our guide is called Teaching Early Literacy to Migrant Children from Central America and the Dominican Republic. This is a professional development guide with a culturally relevant focus, taking into consideration, first and foremost, the needs that New York City's teachers and educators of the K-12 system face when welcoming students from these places. We hope that this guide proves useful to those teachers, but also to all of you. And for the record, this guide will also come out in Spanish, but at a later date. So please stay in touch in case you are interested in that version. So this year, we are proud to be launching this guide as well, along with a hands-on workshop by the authors during the Teach Central America Week, organized by Teaching for Change. And we have the pleasure of having with us the authors who are part of the Central American and Caribbean Early Literacy Network, or as it is known in Spanish, REDLE. So with that said, I am going to give the floor to REDLE, and let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Romina. It's my pleasure to introduce the REDLE, as Romina has said. We are the network for early grade literacy for Central America and the Caribbean. The network is made up of various universities, one in each of the countries that are part of said network. We have Universidad del Valle de Guatemala in Guatemala. We have Universidad Centroamericana in El Salvador and Universidad Centroamericana as well in Nicaragua. We have La Universidad Nacional Pedagógica Francisco Morazán in Honduras and the University of Costa Rica in Costa Rica, as well as La Pontificia Católica Universidad Madre y Maestra in Dominican Republic. And recently, the Autónoma de Panamá has also joined. So we're very happy to be represented in each of the countries, and we focus on promoting research done by local researchers so that stakeholders, decision makers, and educators within the region can learn and put into practice research locally produced, as well as strengthening and training in various aspects related both to early grade literacy and research itself. And we're very happy to be collaborating with the Institute of Latin America and creating this guide with that specific focus of what children in Central America know and what they've been taught, the context in which they've grown, and what different examples and recommendations about a culturally relevant pedagogical based guide, which the authors here will present. Today, we have Natalia Guzman, who is also a researcher with REDLE. She is from the Dominican Republic, and we're very happy to have her with us. We also have Rafael Mesa, who is the training coordinator for REDLE and one of the researchers and writers for this guide. He is from Nicaragua, and another colleague from Nicaragua, Alex Bonilla, who is also a researcher for REDLE and works at the Central American University in Nicaragua, as does Rafael. So it's a great team of people with a lot of experience in the region, a lot of experience in pedagogy, of working with children in these countries have collaborated to make this guide. And we want to help support teachers who are working within a multicultural context. We have a strong focus on early grade literacy, but we believe that a lot of the recommendations within the guide, the context in general, is useful for any subject that's being taught within classrooms for primary school. And we have activities that focus on reading and writing skills, but also a focus on cultural heritage, language diversity, and strengthening the teacher-child relationship. So I'm very happy to be a part of this project and be able to share the guide with you. We suggest that you can go and look at the guide. It will be in ILAS's website. In the K-12 educational program, and there's a link here to the document, which we can also share on the chat. And we also currently already have a workbook that we will be using today on the hands-on workshop. So you can get all of those resources at ILAS and further on also at the Redley website. So I would like to introduce my colleagues, and Rafael Mesa will present the guide itself. Rafael?
Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you, Romina, for having us here today. And well, I think I speak for all of my colleagues when I say that it is a pleasure and it is an honor for us to be here and to share with you, well, this guide that we work alongside.
On the phone.
Sorry, alongside with ILAS. And yeah, first, before we start, I would like to say that, yeah, it is not our intention to lecture on subjects related to culturally relevant pedagogy or literacy instruction. We rather think this session as an opportunity to reflect on how we can welcome the diversity that you may find in your classroom, especially the ones referred to students that come from Central America and the Dominican Republic. So what we want today is like provide our view as Central Americans and Dominicans, so that you can find some useful insights that could enrich your classroom practices. So yeah, just so this is just a point that I would like to note. And yeah, right now, to start with this session, I would like you to go to menti.com, and I would like you to insert the code that is presented on this slide. There you will find that there's a statement, yeah? And what I want you to do is, based on your experience and based on what you know, I would like you to tell me if that assert is true, if that assert is false, or if you don't know whether it's true or false. So I don't know, maybe with 2 minutes, I think it's enough for us to do these activities, and then we will share the results of this poll. Okay, Ingrid, I think I need to share my screen just for a few minutes so that we can see the results.
I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. So let's see. Okay, so in my classroom, a significant part of my students comes from Central America or the Dominican Republic. Well, look like the vast majority says that, yeah, you have students that come from Central America and the Dominican Republic. And that is quite interesting because I imagine that I will stop sharing right now. I imagine that, Ingrid, if you may share again the slide, please. I imagine that having children from Central America and the Dominican Republic may seem like a quite difficult task to endure, because I mean, Central America and the region itself has a lot of elements that has to be taken into consideration. And because in the end, it is a region that it tends to be overlooked by the world in general. And why do I say this? Because, sorry. Why do I say this? Because when we think about Central America, or when we think about America in general, we think, for example, in North America, which has Mexico, United States, and Canada, and we think about South America. But we tend to forget that between them, there's a tiny little ways that is called Central America and the Caribbean, specifically the Dominican Republic, which has its own complexity. I mean, Central America and the Dominican Republic, let me put it this way, we are not South America. We have a lot of differences between that region and ourselves, but also within each country, we have also differences that, I mean, we share common elements, but we also have a lot of differences. But what I want to say in this is, we need to know what happens in Central America and the Dominican Republic so that we can welcome our students in a better and inclusive way. And the thing I want to point out here is that this region has a lot of complexity in terms of social, economic, and cultural issues. For example, we just turned 200 years old, and in many countries across the region, we are still debating if we are actually a democracy or if instead we are just a niche of political corruption. In terms of economic issues, I mean, there's a lot of inequalities still, and there's a lot of I mean, social justice is lacking across all the countries in the region. And when we talk about cultural issues, well, I mean, we think different. I mean, we have different points of view. We have different views of the world and how we relate with other people. And that is quite difficult. Even people from the same country and that comes from different cities, they have a different point of view. So it is important to understand that we have those elements, which are things that your students are going to bring over to the school. And another thing I would like to point out is that we also have a complexity in terms of language diversity. There's a significant language diversity across the region, and not only in terms of the many languages that are spoken in each country, but also when it comes to Spanish. I mean, we have different expressions and we have different meanings. For example, when I with my colleagues of Guatemala and I say the term regazón, they actually don't understand. And when they use a term, which is pretty curious to me, they use a term that in Spanish it says hacernos bola, which means let's not get complicated with something. But when they say that, I instantly think about an expression we have in Nicaragua, which means in Spanish it is estar en bola, which means being naked. So when I'm in a meeting and people say no nos hagamos bola, for me it's quite complicated. But that diversity, well, you may find it in the classroom, and it is hard to cope with. And another thing I would like to point out in this part is that when we talk about the Central America and the Dominican Republic as a region, we have to talk about the gaps that exist in primary education, especially when it comes to teaching, reading, and writing. And when you are able and when you have the opportunity to look at the guide, you will find that there's a lot of challenges and a lot of issues that are still unresolved. and that we have to take into consideration, because the learning loss and the learning gaps that those students have, they may be brought to the classroom and to the classroom in which you teach. So yeah, why did we choose the culturally relevant pedagogy? Why did we choose this approach? Because when we were writing the guide, we thought, okay, we cannot think about, we are going to lecture people on how to provide reading instructions, because I mean, there's a solid body of evidence in the United States that can actually help them. But let's try to use an approach in which we can use the culture of Central America and the Dominican Republic so that we can contextualize learning. We can help become the curriculum culturally relevant so that learning can be contextualized based on subjects and issues that are relevant to students. So we were thinking, let's help teachers frame learning within subjects that can actually be relevant to students, such as, I don't know, their favorite food, or what they do with their families on holidays, and for example, to talk about La Purísima, if you're talking about students from Nicaragua, La Purísima, and these kinds of elements that could help frame that learning so that we can respond to the needs of migrant children in a more responsive way. So this is the reason why we chose this approach. And when you look at the guide, you will see that there are 3 sections or 3 chapters, however you want to call them. And the first chapter, it talks, the title is a reference to a poem of Rubén Darío, and it actually talks about that complexity in terms of social, cultural, and economic issues. Well, you can find an overview of that complexity in that first chapter. In the second chapter, you will find those challenges that I was talking about regarding early grade literacy teaching. You will find that you will find an overall landscape, and I say an overall because it is fair to say that in Central America there are no enough evidence to understand what is really happening with early grade literacy, but you may find an overall landscape of what is happening in the region in terms of EGL teaching. And in the chapter 3, well, you will find some strategies and some tools that you can use using the culturally relevant approach. And we focus mainly on three abilities, which are reading comprehension, phonological awareness, and creative writing. So before I pass it to Natalia, I would like just to explain what you can find in the reading comprehension section of the guide, which is in the chapter number 3. As I said, the guide in general does not try to lecture anybody on reading comprehension, nor on phonological awareness and creative writing. Instead, what we want is to provide strategies to help teachers reflect. And what we want them to reflect is on these issues that you can see on this slide. We want students to reflect on, for example, how they plan the lessons to teach reading comprehension, and to think about the biases that may underlie in the planning processes. For example, how those biases may be shaping, for example, the plan lessons, and how, for example, I am through my lessons, I am misrepresenting, for example, an important cultural aspect of one of my students, sorry. Another element that we want teachers to reflect on is on how to close the gap between the school's cultures and that of students through instruction. And as we know, a school as an social institution has its own culture, and it often represents an hegemonic point of view of different elements, cultural elements that are present in the school. But within each classroom, you may find a diverse quantity of ecosystems or mini ecosystems in each of your students. So what we want to do with this guide is we want students and teachers to think about how we can close the gap with that culture and that of your students. And finally, well, the most important part is that this reading comprehension section provides tools and resources to build culturally relevant instructions in reading comprehension. And you will find a lot of strategies and a lot of exercise that you can do by yourself, so you can ask yourself some important questions, and you can find answers that perhaps you haven't thought yet. And this is quite interesting because we don't want this guy, and on this section in particular, we don't want people to see it as a scripted lesson that you have to fulfill step by step. We rather want to think this guide as a series of tools that are quite flexible and that are pretty amenable to different education settings, so that you can adapt those strategies and those exercises to what most benefits you. And yeah, this is another example of what one of the exercises that you can find on the reading comprehension section of this guide. And now, well, this is basically what I wanted to present. So now I want to pass it to my colleague, Natalia Guzman. So Natalia, please, can you take it?
Thank you, Rafael. So I'm going to talk about phonological awareness. And as Rafael explained, this is one of the three EGL abilities that we include in this guide. And we all know that phonological instruction may favor the transition from L1 to L2, because L1 phonological skills are transferable to a second language and underpin the development of the target language. Learners with low phonological awareness in their first language often face difficulties in learning a second one. So due to the challenge faced by the Central American and Dominican educational systems, not all migrant children have developed this ability in their mother tongue, and not will be able to transfer in the acquisition of another language. And therefore, it is necessary to increase this ability, and this is one of the reasons why it was included in this guide. In this guide, we provide ideas to reinforce and develop this ability in a culturally relevant pedagogical approach. First, the guide helps educators to question and reflect on possible biases or prejudices, and also that is important to take into account the family roles in the planning relevant activities to decide which activities will be appropriate for each child's culture. And families can help us in choosing texts or other elements that are relevant to children based on the following pillars of identity. And the first is self-perception. The second one is recognition of the social and natural environment in Central American and Dominican Republic. And the third one is recognition of the culture with all its possible expressions. So we recommend creating phonological awareness activities for each pillar. And next, in the guide, we will explain a brief didactic sequence of how to teach phonological awareness with a Nicaraguan short history that is Naluta's Secret. Some reason for selecting this story were that the actions take place in a natural and symbolic environment of Nicaraguan identity. That is the second pillar mentioned above. In the character dialogue about the value of their environment. And there are some Central American plants and animals that appear in this text. So we can use this word to play with rhymes and sounds or syllables. And the story values the custom of the native people in Nicaragua, like Misquitos, Garifunas, and other native people. And in this image, you can see that the guy provides a brief review of the story and the link to read it entirely. And then there are activities that are explained with words found in this text. And there are games like I Spy, a word train, describing illustration and comparing words based on their phonetic structure, and among others. So we hope this idea can be helpful for extrapolating from another text. And it can be songs or word banks while continuing to teach with a culturally relevant focus. And these ideas are not proposed as a rigid sequence. Instead, they are general concepts that can be applied to another text, another context. So now my colleague Alex will explain the creative writing section. So thank you for your time.
Just a quick aside, Alex will be presenting in Spanish and I will be posting the translation in the chat. Alex?
Thank you, Natalia and Ingrid. I'm sorry, but my English is not fluent, so I will speak to you in Spanish. Gracias a todos y a todas por permitirnos compartirles el contenido de esta guía. Siempre que pensamos en las niñas y en los niños que están fuera de la región centroamericana, los ubicamos en contextos de vida muy difíciles. También pensamos que o no tenemos idea de lo que realmente les ocurre al llegar a los Estados Unidos. Por eso, cuando empezamos a diseñar esta guía, pensamos en que las actividades propuestas para la escritura creativa podrían ser una forma de hacerles sentir cómodos y cómodas en la escuela, y una forma de hacerlo específicamente era usando su cultura para fomentar el interés por escribir. Fue un gran reto preparar un documento que pudiera ofrecer información válida, pero sobre todo muy comprensible e intuitiva para acercar la posibilidad de enseñar a leer y a escribir con pertinencia cultural, algo de lo que poco se habla en contextos de migración. En la parte de escritura creativa, ustedes van a encontrar prácticamente varias opciones de actividades para la enseñanza de la escritura de forma creativa. Y aquí vale la pena mencionar que muchos autores y autoras especialistas en la enseñanza de la escritura mencionan que hay tres características que debe cumplir un proceso orientado al desarrollo de esta actividad. A continuación voy a exponerles brevemente cada una de esas características. Primero, hay que propiciar una relación lúdica, que sea experimental y que sea estética con el lenguaje. Esto implica ver la actividad de escritura como una oportunidad para jugar y para aprender, basada en experimentar sobre lo escrito, para reescribir y producir distintas formas gráficas a través de los dibujos, de las cartas, de los rótulos, de las historias, de los cómics, de la poesía, de los relatos y otras experiencias. La segunda característica tiene que ver con que hay que dar lugar a otras lecturas, más allá de la lectura en el texto escrito, dar la lectura a lo no verbal, la lectura previa, la lectura a las letras, las lecturas del mundo a través de las imágenes y de los elementos o las criaturas que las conforman. La lectura de las formas y de los sonidos también es importante. El mundo, el entorno social, la escuela, el hogar, todos los espacios permiten o sugieren algo sobre qué escribir. El himno del país de origen de los niños, los colores de su bandera nacional, una danza autóctona, permiten ser observados, procesados y se convierten en motivos de escritura. Y la tercera característica es trabajar con consignas que son la clave para activar la imaginación y el proceso creador. Al igual que la comprensión lectora, enseñar a escribir creativamente debe de hacerse de manera explícita. No podemos pensar que los niños y las niñas aprenden a leer y a escribir por inercia o por intuición. Debemos de enseñarles explícitamente. Se requiere guiar y modelar las situaciones de escritura, así como estimular la imaginación. Retomando el contenido de la guía, esta contiene una serie de ayudas didácticas para promover y practicar la escritura usando la cultura, la lengua, las creencias y la historia personal y familiar de los estudiantes. The next, por favor, English. Para lograr eso, lo que he indicado anteriormente, nosotros proponemos en la guía trabajar desde 3 elementos esenciales. El primero es desarrollar la escritura aprovechando las actividades extracurriculares como los talleres de arte, como los festivales, las ferias de ciencias u otras actividades, haciendo que los niños escriban sobre sus propios temas de interés. El segundo elemento es usar la literatura de autores nacionales de los países de procedencia de la niñez y usar también la tradición oral de Centroamérica reflejada en cuentos y leyendas propias de la región, que son muy conocidas por los niños. Eso ayuda a la motivación porque está asociado a su herencia cultural. Aquí es importante destacar que en Centroamérica y República Dominicana existe un vacío en la producción de literatura infantil centroamericana en lengua inglesa. Los escritores y autores de cuentos lo hacen en español o en alguna otra lengua materna propia de cada país. Aquí se observan 2 tipos de situaciones con respecto a eso. Por un lado, hay editoriales que se dedican a producir literatura centroamericana, pero que envían los productos para traducción fuera de la región. Esto garantiza que los textos que se traduzcan estén en sintonía con la intención de publicación en lengua materna. Por otro lado, esta es una ventana de oportunidades que se abre a la producción literaria infantil de la región para publicarla en otros contextos. Y en tercer lugar, y lo que más nos enorgullece haber presentado en la guía, es presentar unas secuencias didácticas para guiar a los niños en el aprendizaje de la escritura creativa de una manera más práctica, de una manera mejor enfocada y con el proceso adecuado. Usar secuencias didácticas implica que quien enseña debe tener claro los propósitos e intereses de escritura de sus estudiantes. También deben acompañarles en el proceso desde la planificación del texto, luego en la escritura o textualización del mismo y finalmente en la revisión y en la corrección de lo escrito, todo haciéndolo de manera transversal a lo largo del proceso. La propuesta que se hace en la guía es para seguir una ruta de escritura creativa que ayude al niño a estimular sus propios actos de escritura, usando la cultura, su lengua de origen, usando la costumbre familiar, las creencias religiosas de su familia, porque como todos sabrán, Centroamérica es una región eminentemente religiosa, o cualquier otro elemento que se vincule a la vivencia de los niños y a sus intereses. Esperamos que la guía sea un recurso referente en el trabajo de los docentes estadounidenses con la niñez migrante centroamericana y dominicana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. So you'd like to open the forum for questions and answers. You can share a question either via the chat or everyone is also able to just open their microphone and either I or the authors can answer any of the questions, as well as Romina on behalf of ILAS. Yes, raise your hands. Thank you, Romina.
Also, feel free to ask your questions in English or Spanish. Everything's fine. If you so the guide is available on the yeah, I think I should post this again. It's available on our website on the K through 12 outreach programs website, but I'm giving you here on the chat the direct link so you can open it right now. And just download it and have it there with you for whenever you want to. But please feel free to ask anything that any concern about your class. So we have a hand, Ingrid.
Yeah. Dorsa?
Hi. So yeah, I can ask in either English or Spanish, whichever. But basically, how are you sharing the guide? How are you making it accessible to schools and to educators who work with either migrant children in the United States or within Latin America or in Central America in the DR?
Thank you. I could answer for the region of Central America, and maybe I'll let Romina answer for the US context. So the guide is free and accessible for use. We will have it on our website, and I will show you the Redlay website afterwards. And then we also promote it on our social media, and we have a virtual library. So as Romina also mentioned, we're going to have a Spanish guide in the future, and we're also going to do a small launch for that one and make sure that anybody who's interested can see it, and it's free to access and download. So definitely, I'll let Romina answer as well.
Thank you, Ingrid, for that. Yes, that's correct. Yes, Dorsa. So all the work that the K through 12 outreach program does is free for educators, teachers, and anybody who's interested to download on our website, which I am about to post again on the chat. You will have there all the resource guides that we have produced so far, including this one, and even a smaller version of this one under professional development at the beginning of the webpage, which is actually a part of this guide. If you're interested only on reading comprehension, you can just use that one. But if you want the whole packet with the phonological awareness and creative writing and background information on Central America and its educational system, you can download this for free. Now, as how we spread the work, well, we try to reach out to everyone who's interested, and everybody's welcome to get in touch with us if you are interested in further workshops or anything related to the guide. So I'm going to post also on the chat our email in case anybody wants to receive more information about this.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you also work with schools and offer workshops, professional development?
Yes. So if you're interested in anything like that, I am going to post the email, and yes, just get in touch. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'm going to share the Redlay website. Almost all of our resources are in Spanish, but we produce a number of resources for teachers, for educators, and researchers. We also post all of our research, which we publish only in free access journals. So all the research produced by Redlay is open access. And I had a direct message in the chat, which I've asked if it's okay if I read out loud, asking where they can find Central American texts. Just let me make sure I'm reading this correct. Okay, where can I get children's book by Central American and Dominican writers? So that's one of the resources that we posted in the guide. Within the guide, we offer quite a few links of different places where, and names of authors that both from Central America and the Dominican Republic to look for resources. In Redlay's library, we also have quite a few options. At the end of the day, sometimes it's a little hard to get them, and especially in English, which is something that we've noticed. But we're definitely here to offer connections and text and it's part of what we wanted with the guide, definitely. Thank you, Romina. I don't know if the authors would like to add anything to those questions. Los autores, algo que quisieran agregar en respuesta a las preguntas.
Well, I am going to just make a comment on this. Following this presentation, there will be a workshop. There was a registration process, as you are well aware of it. But for those who did not receive a confirmation, just please, you can wait and come back. I will give instructions later on. But the goal of the workshop itself is to take a look at the guide and to have a sense of how you can use it and how it contributes to your work from a Central American and Dominican perspective.
Any more questions? So maybe we have one more slide of just a little bit more information on Redlay. Again, unfortunately it's in Spanish, but we provide courses, different virtual courses online on various topics, research grants. We have the virtual library, which I've also linked in the chat, and our different research projects. Also, I'd like to clarify at the beginning, I accidentally said wrong the name of the university in Panama. It's UDELAS, which is Universidad Especializada de las Américas. I just wanted to clarify that for our network of universities. But we'd love to link up with you. You can see our email there as well. And you can write in English as well. We can make sure to answer back, and it's a great opportunity to connect with all of you and to share the guide. We're very excited about the guide and having everyone be able to use it, access it, have more questions. So we're available if more questions arise further on.
Right. Yes. I think I'm going to just add something else, Ingrid, now that I was reflecting on the question and where to find textbooks and material from Central America. So it's true. Everything that Ingrid said is true, but our program tries to bring some resources in every subject, not only for literacy, through its Pinterest account. So in case you're interested in that, you can also take a look at I'm going to post the website once again, but you can take a look at the website, visit the website. And also please visit the website of Teaching Central America, because this is Teach Central America Week. They have great resources. Just go and explore. Anything else? No? Okay. Well, so if everybody is okay, I have to say thank you so much for attending. I see some thank yous also in the chat. Thank you so much for that. We sincerely hope this guide helps you in your teaching journey, and please keep an eye on the upcoming version in Spanish.